Hi guys, welcome to the second episode of the Slingshot podcast. I'm here today with a very special guest, and we're going to go down a different route to last time. And just a quick disclaimer, we are going to be talking about hunting and other things like that. So if that's not your thing and you get easily offended, this is probably not the podcast for you. But anyway, without further ado, let me introduce our guest today, which is Alex Davidson. Hi Alex, how you doing, bud?
Not bad, mate. How about yourself?
I'm good. So, tell everyone who you are. I mean, you haven't got a YouTube. Well, I don't know if you've got a YouTube channel, but
I used to at one point, but I hid all the videos. I'm not too bothered about it now, But I'm Alex Davidson, been hunting with a catapult for nearly 10 years now, so a little bit of experience with it, and hopefully I've got a little bit of knowledge that I can share to help some new people coming into it as well.
Okay, so what made you pick up a slingshot? I mean, if people don't know, you're pretty much out there to take out game with a slingshot. What made you pick one up and think that was the tool you wanted to use?
About 10 years ago, I got my first dog, so plenty mooching out with her with no knowledge of any sort of outdoor, anything outdoor related. Started to get a little bit interested in bushcraft videos on YouTube, watching MC Crew bushcraft. Eventually, I seen a video of him hunting with a half-cocked target sniper, and I thought, that's a bit of me, that. So I sacked the bushcraft off and sort of went down that route with it, and never looked back since, really.
And do you remember what your first catapult was? Your first slingshot? Do you remember what it was?
The first catapult that I got, I think, was one out of two. I can't remember what it was, which is not bad. It was either a half-cock target sniper, because as soon as you seen that, I thought I best do that. Or there was a wooden one that a travelling that I used to work with. He made this one, which was really nice, but I smashed the hell out of that, if I'm honest, with it being wood. But it was either one of them two. I can't remember which one it was, though, but I got the bug straight away with it.
And obviously, when we're talking about hunting, you have to be accurate. There's no missing, really, is there? So, have you done any sort of competitions, or I mean, where was this point where you thought I'm going to start hunting, or did you want to get a catapult in the beginning to hunt?
Yeah, the main aim was to hunt. I mean, I'm not from a hunting background or anything like that. I remember saying to one lad, "Why do you hunt when you can just get things from the shop?" I had all those mad one-liners that I used to cut, the stereotypical one-liners that people come out with. But I just thought it was absolutely amazing to see what people were doing with it, So I got online, got onto Facebook, got some advice from everyone there. They said, start doing your target practice for a few months and then start sort of progressing over to hunting. So it must have been probably about 4 or 5 months before I got my first kill with a catty. But once I did get it, that they kept coming and coming from there, But for the first phase of it, it was just really trying to get my technique down a lot, That took a good while, because when I hunt now, I'm completely blank-minded. I don't want to be wasting my time thinking, right, I need to anchor, right forks forward, right lift up, If you take that time to be doing all of that, you're wasting time on a shot that, it could fly away or anything,
What did you set yourself a goal? I've heard some people say if you can hit like a 50 pence coin, sort of 9 times out of 10, then you're ready to kind of get a headshot. Did you set yourself?
Yeah, I was always on the cans initially. I had a big garden with a shed in the back, so I just put loads of blankets up and just set myself away with a can. And once I cut it, I just kept on with the bits that were sort of left after the cut, So my shooting wasn't anywhere near as bang on as it probably should have been. I was shooting 12mm lead at the time, so when you're shooting them, there is a massive margin that you don't really need to be the most accurate with. I've changed setup since then and obviously got a lot more accurate, but it's just come down with knowledge, and just figuring out what's worked for me,
And I suppose with that as well, it comes down, to equipment. And knowing what works well for the. I mean, is it? Do you have different ammo for different game, or do you have your setup that you go to, and your setup is your setup?
From the start, I've always shot at 100mm outer. Not to say that this is the way that everyone should go as well, because there's many people who have better shots than me who can shoot a wide variety of frames. But I've always went for a 100mm outer R10 sort of variant with it. At the minute, I'm shooting me Sniper Sling 0.7 yellow with me 8mm lead, and that works absolutely perfect. It's got the same weight as 9.5 steel. We've got the nice thickness on the band, so when it comes into winter, you're not losing the power on it, with it being the 0.7. And I just absolutely love it. Nice light draw on it, and that's took me hares, ducks, pheasants, pigeons, you name it, and I've had it with that setup, and they just fly perfect. So I don't deviate from what I very rarely deviate. I haven't changed bands for about 2 years, maybe a year it might have been. That way I can just pick it up, and I'm always sort of not bang on with me shooting. It'll always take a couple of shots to get back into it, but I know me set up very well now to go back to it if I was to have some time off, sort of thing.
Obviously, you said about getting a few warm-up shots before you go in on a hunt. Explain to people why that's important. If someone wanted to start hunting with a catapult, explain why that's important.
For me, I think if you've had a few days off, your anchor point it's not going to change, but you may think it's in a different place to what it is, So even if you're a couple of mil out on your anchor, that's going to make for inches out of distance or feet further out, however you're shooting, So for me, I like to get a couple of shots in. I always take a spinner with us on a little bit of paracord. If not, shooting over water is 100% one of your best bets, because you can really see actually where you're going wrong, whether it is left, right, up, down, So I'll always look at doing things on water if I can, just to make sure that I am shooting bang on, There's little things as well when it comes into the hunting side of it, lads start flicking the wrist, which isn't, if you pickle fork, that's absolutely fine, but if you're shooting TPF or anything like that, that's no good. So it's just making sure that everything's right, ready for the hunt, I'd rather get the drop than not get the drop, really,
And what would you say your main reason for hunting is? I mean, is it what do you do with the game once you've got it?
I eat a lot of it, to be honest with you. I eat a lot of it. Some of it will go to the ferrets as well. The ferrets do get a little bit of it as well. But I'm really into the wild cooking side of it. Sort of spiraled out from just me catapult hunting. I'm now doing a lot of foraging, so my eyes are up, down, everywhere, looking for forageables to go alongside it, which are all seasonal. So I do quite enjoy the cooking side of it. Even when I was banging to wild camping a few years ago, and there was 1 or 2 times that I went out with no food, no water, and I just wanted the challenge of doing that, I'll be honest, it's no fun doing it now. I'd much rather take me beers and me chocolate and all that now, but just having the skills to do it, I really like,
And I guess back to what you were saying earlier about people saying, well, why don't you just go to the shop? I guess the answer to that is, well, why don't you just go and get your own food? I mean, it's organic, it's fresh, you know where it comes from. And, a bit like fishing, if you go and catch your own fish and you cook your own fish, there's a good feeling about it. It's in our DNA, isn't it?
You can be doing a favour to the wildlife as well, like I'm up in County Durham here. We're sort of bordering where the red squirrels are, so taking grey squirrels is always going to be a good thing, I know we've just come back from an avian flu, but there was a 75% increase in wood pigeon numbers over the last 20 years. So taking them down isn't an issue, Ducks, love duck meat, I don't have any ethical reasons for that, just other than that I really do like me duck meat, same with me hare as well. So you can be doing the wild a favour. I mean, with a catty, you're not going to be getting as much to where you have an impact on it, but you've got that in the back of your mind while you're doing it as well.
And what would you say your favourite thing to eat? Well, if you could go out today and you could have one thing, what would it be?
Hare, 100%. Love hare meat, yeah. You do a nice big dinner with it the first night, and then you normally have plenty meat over for a nice curry the night after as well. So yeah, if I could live on hare, I mean, you can tell even now I'm grinning after that. I do like me hare, like.
And for people who don't know, who may have tasted rabbit, what is the biggest difference between the two?
Oh, I say it's more like gamey lamb. If I'm rubbing me, you're gonna rub your hands and everything.
You're gonna be out now, aren't you? You're gonna stop this. You're gonna be out now trying to get a hare.
Yeah, mate, it's the way to go. Like hare, I'm telling you, it's really, really nice. I'm hoping to get into a little bit of gate netting. I'm bringing a dog on at the minute. So I'll hopefully find out where the hares are running. Sort of set a nice big net across a gateway, and I'll chuck the dog out into the field in the pitch black, and she'll push that that hare into my gate net where I'll take it, and meat won't be tough or anything like that because she's only 3/4 collie, so and quarter greyhound, so she's not going to run it hard or anything like that. Obviously, she'll never get a mouth on it, so it keeps it legal. And then I'll hopefully have a few in the pot over the next couple of years. That's the idea, anyway.
So you just touched on dogs, and you mentioned at the beginning it was the fact that you were going out with your dog. That's what first kind of got you interested in being outdoors, the bushcraft, the catapult. Tell us a little bit more about the dog or the dogs that you have and where that passion come from.
So my first dog was a collie bitch. I bought her at 6 months old as a field sheepdog. I just wanted a little companion. I'd seen a shepherd on the farm where I worked, had a fantastic bond with his dogs. So I went and picked her up. Obviously got into catties at the same time, so I thought I'll try and make a catty dog of this. Done an absolutely terrible job of it, if I'm honest. But absolutely loved being out with her, you know. Progressed then to get another collie bitch from up Scotland. I wanted to do some sheepdog trialing with her. Trained her to a very high standard under the supervision of a gentleman called Stephen Ledger. So I learned a lot from him in my time. Unfortunately, the sheepdog trialing never happened. I moved away from the farm, and I needed to find another purpose for Sky. So I started looking into a lot of gun dog techniques, things like that. Started putting her towards hunting with the catapult and using them gun dog techniques with the catapult side of things. Done a fantastic job of her. Started ferreting with her, although collies aren't the best dogs for ferreting because they don't have the speed. She's done absolutely fine for me, and I learned all my lessons from her, you know. And then recently I went down Manchester to meet a bloke called John, who gives me little lurcher here, or my reverse bred lurcher, who's Meg, who's, like I say, 3/4 collie, 1/4 greyhound. If you have a look on YouTube at Ferreting in the Dales, you'll see her great granddad working by Ian Clayton, who's a big name within the ferreting community. With that as well, I really love the dog training side of it. I was posting a lot of videos, things like that, and then I got an offer to become a gun dog trainer last year. So I've been making that as my living, and once again enhancing my skills under Ian Teeter. He's really sort of brought us on a hell of a lot, roughed out a few edges with us, and now my training's starting to get there with both my dogs and his, you know, and I'm putting out some fantastic dogs now.
Good. And so for people who don't know, what is a gun dog?
So your gun dog is going to be basically, we sort of base it around shotguns. You can't be using them around rifles, so we specialise more in your Labradors, your Springers, and your Cockers. So, like I say, the techniques are sort of about the same. For I always say a good gun dog will make a fantastic catapult dog. A good catapult dog won't necessarily make a good gun dog. So if you're looking to train your dog up, start looking for your gun dog techniques and just transfer it over to the catapult sort of thing, you know.
Okay, and then obviously you've got your beating and you've got your retrieving.
Mm-hmm.
From my knowledge, some dogs do one or the other. Some dogs do both.
So for me, I prefer. For me, I'm more sort of driven towards the picking up side of it. So for me, that would be your Labradors more and your Springers. You can use your Springers for beating and use your Springers for beating and picking up, and then you're looking for your Cockers more for beating and things like that.
Right. So obviously, when it comes to gun dogs, a lot of the time they're alert and they're trained in a certain way. What's different about using a slingshot? Because obviously, with a gun, they got the sound of the gun going off. I appreciate with a slingshot, you've got the snap of the bands. What do you do to make sure your dog is alert and doing what you want it to do?
So I don't think there is much difference, you know, but I think steadiness is the main key, you know. I always say I don't want my dog rushing in and scaring birds off if I was to miss. If that dog's going to react off the snap of the bands and you haven't hit anything, you might have been able to get a follow-up shot, and that's just going to scare the bird off. So I always make sure that I've got a dead steady dog and it's going off my command. Fair enough if it marks the drop and you want your dog to run in, that's absolutely fine if you want your dog to do that. Personally, I don't. I want my dog to wait and go off the voice command. So I'll be doing things in training scenarios. I've got these bird dummies that I put up into trees. I'll shoot the bird out, or the bird dummy out of the tree. I'll go pick it up for the first time. My dog isn't going to get it. She doesn't get every dummy. She needs to learn that, you know. I'll go put it out again. I'll shoot it out. The dog's looking to me for that command. She sees it drop. She marks the drop, and then she's looking to me. I'll give it 4 seconds, and then I'll send the dog out for that retrieve. And that's just going to keep her dead steady for me, and just going off my voice command, which I prefer, not scaring birds up, which I think is the most important thing. One thing I see a lot of people doing bad with training, especially with catapults, is they'll try and encourage the dog to the shot. So they'll shoot the bands, they'll be like, what's that? And they'll make the dog excited about the shot, whereas the dog should never be excited about the shot. It should be excited about the retrieve after.
Okay. And how do you prevent a dog? Because obviously there's natural instincts involved, especially with certain breeds. But I know I've got 2 gun dogs, and for me, like the one that I have, Ren, if she sees a squirrel, that's her. She's locked on. How do you prevent a dog from like you said, you could scare away. You could scare away something just by, if it sees your dog before it sees you. The idea of hunting is seeing what you want before it sees you, right?
Yeah.
So how do you stop your dog from reacting if it sees something before you do?
So one of the problems I've got is, especially with the lurchers that I've got, is that my dog is going to react and it's putting her into a sit prior to it. If you don't want your dog to react, so if I do see it, or if it's happening, I'll do it, and the dog should sit there. And then, on the other side of that, you want to make sure you're doing a lot of memory retrieves with your dogs. If you don't know what that is, have a look online, because that's going to be the way to set you up, So I'll be walking out with the dog on the lead, get the dog into a sit, throw the dummy out, I'll walk back, pop the dog into a sit, take the slip lead off. You want to make sure when you take that slip lead off that the dog isn't running out. Wait that 4 seconds again, send the dog out for the retrieve, bring it back in nicely, progressing to the point where you're doing that completely off the lead, and then that's going to progress towards your hunting skills of using, like, say, a catapult on a dummy or something like that, and then that's going to be the way to do that,
Okay. And obviously, well, you'd class a dog as a tool. But in terms of the tools you use, you said you don't like to change your bands, don't like to change your ammo, which I always think is a good. I always think is a good thing. I like to mess around with things just to see if there's anything else out there. So I will go and get something new to try it out. But what's your setup at the moment? What's your frame, your bands?
I've got a West Yorkshire Catapult Valkyrie, which is an R10 variant, as I said before. He's Sniper Sling 0.7 with a 26-22 cut. The band lasts ages as well. And the 8mm leads, which I knock up myself as well. That was for you on camera.
And does that change with weather at all, or are you happy using it
all year? All year round. Another thing I use as well, HGH Kangaroo pouches. If any of you have known me over the past few years, I have banged on about these pouches left, right, and centre. So much so that he didn't have any in stock. So I spent 50 quid when he got them back in stock, and I've got pouches everywhere. I've got them coming out my ears, but I absolutely swear by those pouches. I can't get away with microfiber because as soon as they get wet, they go. I feel like normal leather just stretches. So kangaroo leather pouches, I think, are the way forward for hunters.
Okay, and if you could give 3 tips to someone who wanted to start hunting with a catapult, bearing in mind you got to think of the animal. You want a headshot, you don't want to injure it and it get away. And what would your tips be? And that can be anything from equipment to technique, or just what would you recommend researching prior to doing that?
So I think taking your time, learning how to shoot the catapult, getting used to your frame is the biggest one. You need to be taking time. If you're not hitting, as you said earlier, things consistently, you're not going to be hitting the pigeons. Another one, staying calm as well. I think too many people can get an adrenaline spike. We spoke about this with Steve Ranella the other day and what he done. We were saying that Steve Ranella went out hunting on a video, and he really encouraged this girl to shoot when she wasn't ready, and she lifted the shotgun up, or rifle, or whatever it was, too high in the sky, and the girl missed. So you need to be staying calm through your shots so that you only ever, for me, it's TTF. I don't see the kills when we framed down near the floor because of the adrenaline. I only see it through the little dimps. So really taking your time with that, and then having the respect as well. Another thing I do is I'm big into leaving shots. If you shoot something, you miss, and you're walking in a straight line, there's a good chance you're going to be putting more birds up down the line. I'd rather leave a bird if I wasn't too sure of the shot, go further on. If there's nothing on, then maybe come back. And if you are going to shoot, at least you're going to be shooting it back down or scaring it back down the way that you've already been. And then you're not going to have the risk of putting more birds up, but they do pick up a hell of a lot just by the flap of especially I'm going more pigeons here, they will get scared further down the line when they hear that sudden flap. So just taking your time and picking the right shot.
So obviously you're not going to get a 40-yard shot, well, a headshot to an animal with a catapult. So what techniques do you use to make sure you can get close enough without spooking the quarry? How do you go about doing that?
So when I'm on pigeons, one thing I like to do is try not to get eye contact. I'm not looking too much. If you can see the bird's head twitching or the bird's moving about a lot, you can see that it's nervous. So I would try and leave that one and try and veer off and round to it, like I say, trying to push it further back if you can. Slow draw the bands if you can as well. That's not to not scare it. Coming onto ducks, I'll try and do like sort of M shapes into the down onto the river, just so I'm not scaring them or I'm getting into the right position to shoot them. If you're after pheasants, you want to be covering your face and your hands as well. You will get so much closer if you cover your face and hands that don't feel a threat. They feel a threat by the colour of your skin more than anything else. So covering your face, covering your hands, you will get a hell of a lot closer with them. So that's another good tip for you.
And where'd you learn all this from? So I've never really thought about not looking a pigeon in the eye or covering my face. Where'd you pick up these sort of things?
A lot of it's trial and error, if I'm honest with you. Although I might have been successful in it, I guarantee you I've had more failures in it as well. So it's just trial and error. You start to read the pigeons. I think people start to need to questioning what they're doing when they're going out hunting, questioning where the birds are as well. So it's, like this month, you're going to be finding the pigeons mainly on hawthorn. Keep an eye on that. If you know they're going to be there, go for there. Next month, I know they're going to be on ash coming out of it. Couple of months after that, I know they're going to be on rapeseed because I've been keeping an eye on it. August, September time, I know that the weather's going to be hot, so you see them more down rivers. And it's just remembering things year on year of where they're going to be. I've basically got a little routine going of how my year goes now, and it's just the failures, basically just learning from your mistakes and trying to better yourself, I think.
And do you plan your hunts? So do you have it that you've been to one place at one time and you know how those animals are behaving, what they're eating? Do you have a record of all this so you know where to go at what time, or is it all
I'm very clued up with the area that I live in. Yes, I know what forageables are grown in certain areas. I know, if you said you wanted to go to a certain mushroom, I could take you to a tree that it grows on and show you it at the time of year. So yeah, I keep a mental map of everything going on just to try and have a good mooch out. I always say it's making the most of me mooch. So yeah.
And what is that like? Do you have planned days where you do that, or is it just like any other interest where, if you go into the gym, you just set a time of day and go for it? Or
I mean, work's took over a lot now, but I do enjoy it. But I try and get out a few times a month if I can. Keep my eyes in properly for proper mooches anyway. There's other things that I do as well. I won't shoot corvids. I've got no interest in eating corvids, but I won't shoot them just for the basis that I know that they're going to scare squirrels away. Squirrels pick up on that big style, So, pick up books as well. Archie Coates is a fantastic person who's wrote a good few. It's more about shotguns, You don't need to read the bits about decoying and things like that, but you can pick the books up and read the bits that you need to learn your quarry. And I think that's going to be a massive thing is learning what you're doing when you're out, rather than just going out and walking. But it depends on how you want to do it as well.
And I suppose when we're talking about a catapult, it's, for me especially, and I've heard a lot of people say this, when you're using a gun, okay, it might be satisfying if you take some out, but when you're using a catapult, there's a bit extra there. There's more of a primitive feel to it. There's more of a I've just done something using a lot of skill there. Do you feel that?
Yeah, I love it. I've got no time for guns. I work as a gun dog trainer and I won't go out shooting. I've got no interest in it. I really, really like getting out with a catty. I love sticking it in my pocket. I love the mooch. So I'm all about the cat. I'd bow hunt if I could. I know you kind of get away with that in this country, but if I could, I would be doing it that way. So I think for me, the catapult's the next best thing in that respect.
And I suppose it's quite interesting actually, because I know you're not one of those catapult enthusiasts that goes out and buys loads of different frames and get excited about the next big thing that's coming out. But for someone who constantly hunting with a catapult, what is it about the setup that you've got right now and why you're reluctant to maybe see what else is out there? Do you not think there could be something out there that will be even better, or do you just think you're at a point now where you're very, very comfortable with your setup, you're very, very comfortable with your equipment, and it's all doing the job, so there's no need to go there really?
If it's not broke, don't fix it. I'm a big fan of, it's been working for this long, and I see it working time and time again. I've been in the catapult. Although I'm not enthusiastic about catapults, I'm very enthusiastic about what a catapult can do for us. I feel like a lot of people are always looking for that next best thing, and they don't find it. They end up wasting too much time faffing on getting it new setups, having to cut new bands, things like that. And it takes time away from me. I don't have that time to be relearning a band set. And it's not just relearn the band set for, if I start shooting now in March, I'm going to have to relearn it when it comes to winter, see what it's like shooting then. So it's just a setup that I know is going to work time and time again, and I don't have to be faffing on cutting loads of different bands for different seasons, different weathers, things like that. You know, I can just go out and hunt, which is the main thing for me.
I think I see a lot of it, especially on social media pages and things like that, where people are talking about using ammo, and you always get people saying, use this, use that. But it has got to be down to the user. It goes to the same as like reference points, your anchor point, the equipment you're using. But I think one of the big things, especially when we're talking about hunting, is ammo. I use 8mm steels, so obviously the same size as yours, but yours are a bit heavier, being lead.
Yeah.
Then I see some people using 11 mils and 12 mils and stuff like that. But for me, I feel like there's too much of a drop on that. Have you got a reason why you use what you use when it comes to ammo?
I want the nice light setup and the nice hard hit. You know, I know 11mm steel came in quite popular with Wayne Martin. But when you look at the size of his arms, are like the size of my legs. I can't be pulling the bands back that he's pulling, you know. So he gets away with it fantastic, and I can't fault the bloke. You know, he's a fantastic hunter. But I can't be, you know, I might be able to pull it back once or twice, but I'm not pulling it back all day for a good mooch, you know. So it's just finding what works for you personally, and definitely for the size that you are as well, like we're saying, you know.
I find it's the distance as well. With the 8mm, I find I can cover quite a lot of distance, whereas if I go a little bit heavier, I lose the distance.
Yeah.
And as we were talking about getting closer to the quarry earlier, I think it's quite important that you can get close enough, but also what you're using is also going to do the job when you get there, right?
You don't have to be anticipating a drop when you're shooting 20 yards or 20 meters or anything like that, really. You're dead right with what you say there.
So let's have a little chat about the area you're in. Do you know many people like yourself that goes out and uses a catapult to hunt, or
no? Not a single person. There's another lad local to us who I chat a little bit with online, you know. He wanted a hand making bands, which I didn't mind helping him. I made him some bands, but at the same time I said, I'm not going to make you another set. If you want to come up and I'll show you how to make them, I'd rather spend the hour showing them how to make them than spend the 15 minutes making them. So I'm more than happy to help people, you know, but I live for the mooch on my own, you know. I don't want other people around. I don't want to be talking. I want to be dead quiet. I don't faff on with my dog. This is another thing when we were talking about springers and cockers and that before. They can be a little bit busy around your feet. If you ask me, Labrador's the way forward. So it's all about being quiet and being 100% focused, you know. Although my mind's running absolutely mental when I'm out with what birds are around, what animals are around, what forageables are around, what things I can use for bushcraft, what birds of prey might be around. It's my mind's going a million miles an hour, but it's the time that I find peace in my mind, if you will, you know. It's the time that it's my quiet time as well. So yeah, I much prefer doing it all by myself, if I'm honest.
And what's quite interesting, you've kind of said that you're not from this sort of background. Where are you actually from? Were you kind of very outdoorsy as a kid?
No. So I'd done a lot of free running when I was a young'un. So it was I'm really thankful that I've done that, because it was hammering techniques, realizing that I can't do it, but eventually if I keep practicing that I will be able to do it. But I grew up in a place called Washington, which at the time had the highest underage pregnancy rate in Europe, not because of me, by the way. And it was also that would do with me. And it was also the cheapest place to buy or rent a house in the UK. So it wasn't a very nice area, like say, sort of towned area, nothing really going for it. And then I moved out to the country, and like I say, it's just changed my life for the better, really.
And what inspired you to do that? What inspired you to kind of go from that kind of built up area to great outdoors?
I was lucky to land a decent job, if I'm honest. I landed a job where I was taking people out quad biking, clay pigeon shooting, mud buggying and things like that. So that brought us out to Durham, and, you know, talking to the people who were on the farm, like I mentioned Stephen before, who had the collie, the lads who were down at the clay side of things, you know, they started talking to us about hunting, advising us. I mean, it was little things like I was scared a pigeon was going to peck at us when I was picking it up, things like that, you know. I didn't have a clue, and I look back and laugh at them now. So it's been having the right people around us to guide us as well, you know. And
have you got one big inspiration that you kind of look at or that you kind of admire?
So believe it or not, it's probably someone. It's not actually someone within catapult. I would say a gentleman called Cameron Haynes, who's a bow hunter from America. He's put some good videos out as well. He'll go out hunting black bear, elk, all sorts of things. He runs a marathon a day. He lifts weights, and he tries to make the training harder than the actual event, so he can go out and be hopefully more successful, and he proves it time and time again. So I adopt that attitude as well. I'm big into me running, I'm big into me gym. I'm always training my dogs to be better, you know. I'm always trying to get the shots in on the catapults, even if it is just 5 to 10 shots a day. I don't like to overdo it. As I said earlier, you can start dropping the frame while you're shooting, things like that. So I would say Cameron Hames, and if you haven't seen him, definitely have a look at him.
And when we're talking about your dogs, are they in your home with you, or are they kennelled?
Yeah. No, my dogs are in the house with us. Although the really good workers, I've also got them absolutely soft as out. You know, they're spoiled. I feed them a good diet of raw, sometimes a little bit of kibble. I make sure that they do get the best, because I need the best out of them. You know, even if I can just have something 1% better, even if there's so much more work into it, I will put a lot more into it. You know.
And I guess that kind of goes against the grain a bit, because you hear a lot of people say you can't have a dog as a pet and a dog that works. But I know mine are the same as yours. They're spoiled. You know, they're pets. You wouldn't look at them and think they're working dogs. But why do you think that attitude is? Is it an old-fashioned thing where dogs are in kennels and they're tools and nothing else? You know, is that where you think it's come from?
No, I think it's the way that people have them in the house. You know, if there's, although I do have them soft as out, my dogs aren't jumping up at us. They're not getting up on sofas on top of us. You know, having this possessive behaviour. I won't let my dogs eat before us, because I'm the alpha. In the wild, I would have made the kill, so I eat before them. I make sure that they're not in the room with us when I eat. They're nowhere near us. There's loads of little things that I'll be doing that they know I am the boss when it comes down to it. You know, so it's just making sure that they know that as well. I think people nowadays, dogs rule the roost over them, and I like to say, although they're soft, they know the place in the pecking order, all three of them.
And we've touched on breeds, but sort of from my perspective, I have favourite breeds just from my past. Growing up, I've had many breeds. I've had boxers, I've had German Shepherds, and for me, the German Shepherd was, and probably still is, my go-to. Now, for someone like me who also has Labradors as gun dogs, I know in the back of my mind a German Shepherd isn't probably the best dog to go out with me and, you know, go on a mooch, pick something up. What do you think that contributes to? Because obviously, if you're looking at like a French bulldog or something like that, there's just no way. But when you've got a working dog and a working dog, so a German Shepherd is a working dog, a Collie is a working dog, a Labrador is a working dog. Obviously, they're bred for different things. How plausible would it be to train a dog that is trainable in any area of field sports?
Provided you start early enough, you can do it bang on, you know, but it's looking at the right dog as well. As you said, German Shepherd, you've got to be looking for a dog that's going to be in fit condition for the mooching that you're doing, you know. You definitely want to be looking at German lines. The KC lines nowadays, I think, are absolutely ruined. They've got that, you know, the hips, the back, everything like that, you know. But provided you put the correct training in them early on, you can do anything with them, you know. I've got a mate who does search and rescue over Norway with a Collie, so he's channeled that training that way. Obviously, a mate who's a shepherd doing it that way. I've done picking up with mine. So it's getting the correct training in them early on. You can build instinct or you can change instinct a hell of a lot within the first year. There's obviously going to be little things coming through. You know, my dogs will naturally herd. They won't herd a pigeon, you know, but you will see those traits come through naturally within the breed that you've got. But you can start a Labrador off a hell of a lot easier and all than you will do, say, you know, your Terrier or your Collie or anything like that, because it is bred to picking up and it is natural. You see it time and time again that do naturally want to come into you. So it's finding the right dog for you and finding the dog that you can give the work to, you know. I've just had a little Vizsla in there for training and they take so much. They'd be fantastic working dogs, but you see a lot of lads getting them for ultramarathon running and things like that. If you're not doing that, you don't want one of them, you know. So research your breed. That's the main thing. Research the breed that you want and research the training that you're going to put into them.
And I suppose it's always easier to have, just like anything when it comes to dogs, it's always easier to have one dog that knows what it's doing for the other one to pick up the skills. So even if you talk about the very, very basics of owning a dog, if you've got one dog and you go and get a pup, that pup's probably going to start going to the toilet outside and doing what it should be doing a lot quicker if it's got another dog with it. That obviously also applies to working dogs and being able to show a dog what to do from learning from another. What's the difference when you haven't got that and you're trying to teach a dog what to do, and is it the reward system, which sounds very simple, but obviously it's not. Otherwise, I think everybody would be doing it. But if you haven't got that role model for the dog to look up to and learn from, what do you do?
You see, I still, it is the basics like that. Like you say that you can do the potty train and things like that. But when I go out and train a dog, I'm training it by itself. Sometimes they won't even see another dog picking up unless they're really, really struggling. For me, I don't treat training anything other than the sit. Everything else is just reward driven, So they'll get a little touch on the chin, they'll get a good girl, good boy. And that comes into what we were saying before within the house. I'm not constantly faffing on with my dogs, cuddling them, giving them loads of affection. I don't really talk much to my dogs other than commands as well, because I want them being so bang on. So it's just taking the time, as I said before, and making sure that they love that reward or love the task in hand, The reward
and I guess
being the
by now they know what a catapult is. Do you see signs of excitement when you pull it out of your pocket? Do they know what's coming?
There's me Merle collie there, which people may see. There's little things that she's picked up on by herself. So I'll be walking along with me catapult in one hand. As soon as I come to put my other hand on the pouch, the dog puts herself into a sit, and that's just through repetition. I won't even say anything, and that's just through repetition of me saying sit because I'm about to take a shot, and she'll watch. I can draw the catapult and I can spin 360 degrees. The dog will follow us 360 degrees because she wants to mark that shot that I'm about to take, and she's dead keen for it now.
That's incredible. So
it's
from
association, the dogs will get things by association. There's little things that I do. I'll say for the sit, I don't even need to say sit because I've said sit so many times and shown the palm of my hand. If I just show the dog the palm of the hand now, she knows that means sit. So you can do those little things by association, just by, like I say, just keep hammering them, really.
So we spoke about 3 tips for somebody who wanted to go out hunting with a catapult. What are your 3 tips for somebody who wanted to use a dog as a catapult dog?
So I'd say the first one is definitely take your time. I would rather introduce a dog to it later on in life rather than too soon. I mean, in the ferreting world, which I'm more a part of now than probably the catapults, you see lads starting the dogs too young, or they'll have in the head, you need to start a dog when it's a year old. You start a dog when it's ready, take your time and get all the training bang on first, So it comes into the second tip of making sure that your dog's dead steady around the catapult, getting the dummies, or getting some of them bird dummies, which I talk about. You can order them from Dog and Field Sport and Saint Rufi in the UK. Get some practice shots on them first. If your dog's not doing things correctly on the dummies, your dog's not going to be doing things correctly on the birds. So making sure that you've got that right as well. And then lastly, just making sure that the thing knows its place, i.e. it's walking by your side, it's not walking ahead of you, putting birds up. It'll stop when it's told, so you can even walk out for the shot and it recalls in nicely. If you don't have the basics down, you're not going to progress, really.
Okay. And obviously this is different for everybody depending on where they live. But obviously being in the UK, how does someone go about finding an area where they can go out and do that? Because obviously they're not going to walk into a London town centre and shoot up a pigeon with a catapult. So how would you go about finding the right place to go and do something like that?
So it's finding the right permission and the right people who are going to let you on, really. The struggle with catapults is people are going to laugh at you when you tell them that you're using a catapult because you're not going to be getting big bags with it. You can say that you are, but like the biggest bag I got is 9. Comparing that to a pigeon shooter, who are getting 40, 50 to 200, you're not going to do it. So it's probably finding someone who's going to do you a favor and just let you on, I've got a few people around me, few landowners who I get on really well with, who just let us go out and just do me thing and hunt, and then I offer pest control in other ways, through me ferreting or trapping grey squirrels or hopefully gate netting soon. So I can offer things in other ways, and then I get a little move shot with me catapult while I'm on the land,
So do you want to have a little talk about that? What other methods do you have? You mentioned trapping there.
Yeah, so big into me trapping. I love me body grip traps for ferreting. If anyone's listening in the US and Canada, you'll know them as coney bears. We've got to do things a little bit different in the UK. We've got to put them in boxes. So I'll trap right up until about September, if I'm honest with you. September, you start to get the hazelnuts out. You'll not be getting them into your boxes, but that's a perfect time for catapult hunting. So it's something else that I have in my calendar. Like I say, September comes, I'm out trying to shoot the squizzes. That's a fantastic way to go. You can snare them as well if you want with a bit of aircraft cable, 1.5mm aircraft cable. That's another way to do it. It's not legal. Oh, you could used to do it, I should say. You can't do it now, but it is a fantastic way to go. And you can just sort of make your own route up with your mooch. You know, you've got your boxes in certain places. You've got your catty in between these spots. So trapping is a fantastic way to go. Like I say, me ferreting, I'm a big fan of that. So I've got 2 ferrets out there in the garden, in hutches in the garden, I should say. They work fantastic alongside with me dogs. The dogs know their place around them. When the ferret comes up, they know it's the ferret, they know it's not the rabbit. So they'll leave it alone, and they realise that they're working together for the same goal. You know, when there's no rabbits left in the, my dog marks the warren as well, I should say. So there could be plenty of holes out and about when we're going places. If my dog's head isn't in the ground or my dog's starting to look at me, I know that there's nothing there. If my dog's got that collie fixation, I know that there's something in that warren. Net them up. I'll put nets over the holes, and we'll chuck the ferret in. Once my ferrets are out and they're not going down underground anymore, I know that warren's empty, and it's time to move on.
And does that take any training with the ferrets, or is that more of a natural?
It's just natural, and it's. You know, some people will say your EUs are better or your polecats are better. Some people will say your albinos are better, but I think it's just luck of the draw, if I'm honest with you. You know, some ferrets are going to make fantastic workers. I had 2 there, that's 2 Jills, 2 females, both litter sisters. One of them is absolutely exceptional. The other one was absolutely terrible. So she actually ended up going to a pet home, which I wasn't too bothered about, you know. So it's luck of the draw with it, really, you know. But no, there's no training going in. Got a bit of raw. The lads I got them off are the lads that I go ferreting with and do a lot of hunting with. So they give us it, but they're making sure that before their eyes are even open, at a few weeks old, that we're putting rabbit in there, so they know the smell, they know the warmth of it, and then that just sort of kickstarts the prey drive a little bit earlier on.
I suppose nothing's going to waste then either, because obviously you're getting all
they get a lot of the
good bits of meat, and then obviously the ferrets will then finish up anything.
Yeah.
Okay, so I got some fan questions.
Right.
Some of them are quite interesting.
Right.
I'll get the one interesting one out of the way first, because I think this will be quite a fun topic. So this is by Anonymous. Mm-hmm. It said, "Don't you feel bad for killing animals?" I mean, I don't know where you want to start with this, but
the answer is no. No, I don't. Not at all. No. I mean, we've got some fantastic rabbiting permission. I'll go on to that bit first with the rabbits. As some of you may know, myxomatosis is killer during the summer, knacks a lot of the rabbits. I think the new one's VHD. That's taking a lot of rabbits. Luckily, we don't have that up there at the minute, but it's because we're keeping the population low. There's other lads sort of local to there that are doing the same job. Now, if we weren't doing that, I guarantee you that disease would spread through there and wipe it out. As I went on about wood pigeons earlier, 75% increase in the last 20 years. So they're doing a lot of crop damage. So even if you're a vegan, how are you, mate? You know what I mean? We're doing you a favour as well. Your grey squirrels, we're bordering a part of the land now where, like I say, red squirrel territory. The greys are starting to make a push north, unfortunately, which is pushing the reds back. So I'm more than happy to take a good few squirrels if I can. Ducks, if I'm honest with you, I only ever take male mallards. You know, I think it's something like one that they take over 1 in 7 females or something like that. I think I read, you know, so I'll take charge of it, you know, and the breeding, they're doing the majority of the breeding if you've got a dominant one. So, and I don't really take pheasants, if I'm honest with you. I haven't taken pheasants for a few years. Like I say, I'm pally with a few people local to us. I don't want to be taking their birds. I think the price is something like stupid, like £6 a bird when they're buying them in now, with everything going on. So, no, I don't, if I'm honest with you. No.
I think it's, I suppose if you're vegan, I get it. But from the perspective of someone who eats meat,
mm-hmm.
it's quite difficult for me to wrap my head around why you'd have a problem with it. Because, yeah, okay, you're doing it yourself, but it's humane. Like we said, the meat is organic. You know exactly where it's coming from, and you're doing the wildlife a favour.
I mean, what I would like to say as well is, how do you propose to save marsh harriers or hen harriers without predator control, controlling the stoats, controlling the foxes? How do you propose doing it? How do you propose tackling the grey squirrel population that's wiping out the red squirrels? People say, you can do the injections into them, which will sterilise them. Who's paying for that at the end of the day? Are you going to pay for it? The government can't pay for it, you know. So they've got these ideas. I think that you shouldn't be doing it, but you find a different solution to me.
And I mean, people go about, let nature take its course, but the reality is, especially when it comes to things like grey squirrels, they're not naturally supposed to be here.
Yeah.
They're not indigenous to the UK. They are wiping out the red squirrel population with the squirrel pox. And also it's the songbirds and things like that as well. We've had a lot of, taking the British songbirds and things like that. So I'm completely in agreement, but I think it's just a knowledge thing. I think is always that ignorance is bliss, and you can go to Tesco and get yourself a piece of steak and sit there and think you're not doing anything wrong. But the reality of it is, do you know exactly where that's come from? If you get a kebab, what's in that meat? Do you know?
Or shipping the avocados over from South America, which is putting more on climate. I'm foraging for mine. How much foraging do you? I really like this question. I'm doing all my foraging, things like that. You're getting your stuff shipped over from South America, so you've got to look at the impact that vegans are doing as well. Look at the crops that they're doing, the soy crops and things like that, there's a lot of deforestation goes in for that. So, I'm going to keep doing what I'm doing, I think.
So the next question is, what is the difference between shooting, sort of hunting when you're using a catapult? What is the difference between shooting a target and shooting an animal?
In what sense?
So I guess what they probably mean is, obviously when you're shooting a target, you're lining up your shot, you're getting your reference point, you get your anchor point, you let go, and you still do all the same things. You still do all the same, take your shot. But obviously, one main thing, well, from my perspective anyway, is that target's not moving. You might have a bit of wind to it. Or sometimes what I'll do is try and move that target a little bit. So I've got like a catcher, and I'll just swing that. I'll go back, and it'll be moving. But is that what you would say? Is the fact?
So I'd say that. I mean, for me, I'll hit the target first or second time, and I guarantee I'll never ever hit it again. My attention span isn't working that well. So I think you've got to hammer a stationary target when you're first starting. If you're struggling, if you don't know your reference point, take your ball bearing out your pouch first thing. Get sideways onto a mirror. You're going to be able to see if your forks are completely up and down or straight. You're going to be able to see if your pouch is too high, too low, Once you've got that, just keep drawing back to that point. Remember what your catapult looks like. Do that a few times, then take it out of the catch box. Do that until you're hitting it consistently, as you said earlier, 9 out of 10 shots. If you feel like you're going left or right, you can suss that over water if you want to. Maybe just shooting towards a rock, something like that, provided you're in a safe area. But then, like I say, I don't shoot the target not more than 2 times, So then it's taking it out, moving your targets out into the wild, if you will, setting up on top of the hills, between different branches, down valleys, and it's going to be mixing your shots up and just getting that muscle memory for the different angles that you're going to be shooting. Like I can't shoot down to save my life, and I think that's probably why I do a lot of ferreting now, because I kind of dip rabbits to save my life. So it's
well, I was going to say that's the next question, and I actually find this quite difficult as well. They say if something's in a tree, they can pretty much take it out, but if something's on the ground, they struggle. They want to know why that is.
It's your elbow a lot of the time. I think a lot of what naturally, I know I'm on film here, this is going to be ideal for everyone. When you're shooting down, your elbow sort of comes up with it. When you're shooting up, your elbow's already at the right angle for your catapult. You're going to have to bring that archer's elbow in and sort of angle down a bit as well for that one. And I think if you've got your elbow tucked in a little bit too much, your pouch is bent and it sort of flicks the ball a little bit too much as well. So you've got to try and get that archer style. Gamekeeper John and Chris Graffin are really, really good examples of that archer style. So if you can look at what those lads are doing and try to mimic it, you will help that out. But I find that when you're shooting down as well, you can be a few inches below the target that I'm aiming at certain distances. It's having it zeroed in like a zeroed in air rifle, really. So definitely get that archer's elbow in for shooting down, or buy some ferrets and just sack it off.
Well, that's what I had. I took Ren out, the dog, the other day, and she chased a squirrel up into a tree. And I suppose, as much as she's a retriever, That's one benefit of having a dog as well, is especially if, I mean, now and again, I do let her go for a good run and she'll just disappear. And with that, then I will start to see things. I'll see, maybe pigeon or squirrel that's on the ground. They'll kind of go up into the tree because they perhaps know they're safe there. Would you say that's something that you would do as well? Would you allow your dog to go out and do something like that?
So more so Sky, Merle, again, the more experienced one, she'll mark squirrels up in the tree. Absolutely no bother. Another thing I've done, you'll probably see some training videos if you do end up following us. My dog will circle around a dummy and go to the other side, and I can make her do that, no bother. Now, that comes in very handy when you're after squirrels, just for the simple fact that when they see a threat on that side, they'll come back towards you. You've got to be careful. You're going to have to be shooting up. You're going to be shooting horizontal at the thing, and then that's going to make a world of difference to the squirrels. But for me, I don't like them mooching too far ahead. I like the squirrel to be settled before I take the shot. If they feel that threat coming through the woods, they're just going to keep bouncing away. And I don't have many fast-moving shots, if I'm honest, I try and get them when they're still. Otherwise, pouch goes back towards the forks and I leave it,
Okay, so I've got another one by Luke Jones. I hear a lot of people talking about hunting bands. What are they? So I don't think there's necessarily hunting bands. I think there's probably certain bands out there who are what's going to probably fire a bit quicker than other bands. But it's not necessarily like one band or two bands out there. It's not like a company will make hunting bands and then target bands. So how would you go about giving someone advice on how to find the right bands to hunt?
It's finding out what ammo you want to use as well, trial and error is going to be the way to do things, finding out what it works. You might be able to drop a pigeon with a headshot with 5 mil steel and 0.4 bands. You take that out when it's snowing, the ball might not even get past the frame, you know what I mean? So it is just finding what's going to work all year round for you, or changing your setups relevant to how you want to do it,
Okay, perfect.
I could answer that one better,
No, I think that makes sense, to be honest with you. I think it goes back to, stuff that we've spoken about before in terms of using stuff that works for you. Obviously, you can hit, if you're hitting a target from a distance, at the end of the day, it's got the speed to get that distance anyway.
Yeah.
If you're firing something 20 yards and you're hitting a target at 20 yards, well, you've got the speed because it's hitting the target. It's not like, if you do get a headshot, I suppose a lot of people don't realize that impact of that is going to take out your quarry anyway. I mean, if you hit a pigeon in the breast, it's just going to bounce off and it's going to fly away. So I think it's more concentrating on getting your technique spot on before you start worrying about all the intricate little bits of the bands and the equipment that you're using.
I mean, I would say, especially as well, if someone's only getting 1 or 2 kill a month, don't be taking advice off them either. You want to be looking at the lads who are getting the big bags, who are getting the good shots in on the videos. If they aren't doing it themselves, you don't want to be copying them. And there's a lot of people out there who think they know it all and they don't. I'm not saying that I do either, but look at the people who are getting the results and then try and mimic them if you can, or mimic their techniques and the way they go on.
I think that's quite important. I think in terms of technique, you do need to kind of listen to what others are doing when it comes to hunting it. At the end of the day, if you miss a can, you miss a can. If you injure an animal, it's not great to kind of hit a rabbit in the midsection and let it hop off somewhere. So it's quite important that obviously you got the technique there. Like you say, you mentioned a few people: Gamekeeper John, Chris Gaffin, who does the
Joe Bond as well. He's another good Joe. He's good hunting and all, I want to say.
So I think you need to look at those kind of people and, maybe take some inspiration from the equipment they're using. It might work for you, it might not. For me personally, it's just what works for me. If I get something, someone can recommend something, I can go out and shoot with it and I won't hit anything. Get a can out there, go 10 yards and I won't hit it with someone else's advice. So you still need to find what works for you. But definitely in terms of technique, you need to make sure you're spot on before you start going out there hunting.
Yeah, and try and keep your adrenaline down as well. That's another big one for me, As soon as my adrenaline spikes, that's me done for a little while. I'm not going to shoot. I'll get a few target shots in, And that's I always find that when I haven't hunted for a little while, I'm not settled into it, So I really try and work on that and try and stay calm. The mental preparation before a shot, I don't want to be walking around thinking, where's a pigeon? I need to get myself a pigeon, or where's a pigeon? As I said earlier, I like that blank mind. I think if I build the shot up, my adrenaline spikes something stupid, So just enjoy your walk out. You're not out catapult hunting, you're out for a walk and you happen to have a catapult in your pocket. Try and take things a bit more like that, and a bit more opportunistically than I have to get one. If you put the stress on you, you're going to feel the stress when you're shooting, I feel.
And that's a bit of good advice, actually, because I find that quite a lot. If I go out, I'll set off early in the morning. I'll get frustrated because I've not seen anything. And I suppose when that frustration kicks in, when you do see something, that adrenaline's going to go, your composure's gone.
Just go out for a dog walk, that's all you're doing.
Right.
That's what I would do. It makes it a bit easier for you, I mean, one thing I would say, I think one of the best bits of advice I got, I mean, I never used to get up early. When it gets to summer, get your alarm set for 4:30, lads, and get yourself out at that time and just have a mooch out for, if you start work at 8, get yourself for 2-3 hours and have a proper mooch at that time. And I think that's one of the best times to go out in the summer. And like say, along rivers, that time when it's really hot as well, you're going to get better results, I feel, for the amount of, or lakes, whatever you may be, I think you'll get better results at that time, rather than going later on. But that's just me,
Oh, perfect. Well, thanks for that, Alex. I think we've had a lot of information there for someone that's looking to get out there hunting with a catapult. Is there anything that you want to say just before we kind of finish up on hunting with a catapult?
Just as I was saying there, don't put too much stress on yourself. Just go out for a walk. Just enjoy the walk out. Start, as I was saying earlier as well, start thinking about what's happening around you. Where are you seeing the pigeons? At what point are they flying away? Don't hammer the same areas over and over again, because they will get used to the same threats if you are going out at the same time. But most importantly, just have fun with it, I think.
I think you've got to enjoy it, haven't you? There's no point being frustrated or not knowing what you're doing. I think that's another thing. You have to kind of do your research, make sure you know what you're doing before you go out. But
enjoy
that's
the process.
Great. Yeah, definitely.
Enjoy the failures as well. You're going to learn from them. You're going to laugh from them. I think too many people come into it. Loads of people know these people as well. They haven't got a kill within the first few weeks. I'm not doing that anymore. You need to absolutely love what you're doing and trust the process that it is going to happen. There was things I was doing where if a band snapped, I would just tie the end back on. So I had wonky bands on. I'd done all sorts of stupid stuff in the early days, but I loved the process. I trusted that it was going to work, and I just kept at it. To the point there, if I go out 9 times out of 10, I'll get a kill.
I think for me, one of the things that people don't think about is, what are you going to do once you take that out? Do you know how to clean an animal? Because you've got it, you put it in your bag, you get home, and then you sit there and watch a YouTube video, clean a squirrel. So I think, you need to think of every single part of what you're doing, the preparation, when you're out in the field, and then obviously when you come back. Because that's one thing I think people forget about. Is all great, especially with the catapult. You put all this time and this effort in, but you want to know what you're doing. Even little things, and I don't know about you, but I'm quite passionate about cooking. So even looking at recipes and things you can do with different meats and things like that, I think you need to kind of look at, and it'll probably give you a bit more motivation, as what you were just saying about giving up. Oh, I haven't hit anything. But if you've got that in the back of your mind, you've got this recipe, you want to do buttermilk squirrel, and you want to do this, you want to do that. It gives you that little bit of motivation onto, going out, or you've got yourself a knife, and you know what you want to do. You've watched many videos on different methods, different ways of cleaning a squirrel, for example. And then I suppose the only thing left to do then is go out and get it.
I mean, one thing I always say is make the most of your mooch. So although we're talking about catapulting, I'm a big fan of the mooch, and I'm looking for those other opportunities, I should say, through me forage and things like that. So start looking at other things that you can be doing when you're out there, even if you are looking for them forageables. Like I said earlier, it's taking your mind from, I need to get a pigeon, and it's going to keep you calmer for when the opportunity does arise, but make the most of your mooch, lads, and look for other things to be doing while you're out, foraging. I swear by it. I wouldn't be rushing into eating things straight away. But if there's any English lads, I mean, we're in March now. A couple of ones for you to look at: wild garlic. Print screen a picture of that on your phone. Opposite leaf golden saxifrage. Take a picture of that on your phone. Those two you're going to find down streams. Jack by the Hedge is another fantastic one. You're going to find that on roadsides, things like that. Take a picture of that. Have a look for it when you're out and about. And Gorse Bush Petals, have a look for them when you're out and about. It's just going to set you away. Take some pictures on it. Join some foraging pages online. And that's going to be another way that you can sort of open up your wild cooking a bit as well.
That's great. Well, thank you very much, Alex. Thanks for your time.
Thank you, mate.
We'll finish up here with just if you want to follow Alex on Instagram, do you want to let everyone know what that is and what it is that you kind of do?
So it's Alex Davidson Outdoors. A lot of it's dog training nowadays, sort of getting ready for season, but there's a good few ferreting clips on there. There's some long netting clips on there. Basically just all hunting and foraging dog training, really. So, yeah.
That's great. Well, thank you very much, Alex. Thanks for your time.
Cheers, mate. Thank you.
Later.
Cheers.
Cheers, pal.